Alright, so King-Ohger episode 32 has just dropped, part 1 of part 2, celebrating 10 years of Kyoryuger. Now, I'm probably going to butcher the name Kyoryuger several times in this review, so I do apologize, but I've never seen Kyoryuger. I'm more of a Dino Charge guy. Kyoryuger is on my list to go watch it, but I need to get around to watching it. I just need to find torrents and seeds and stuff like that. For an older show, it's kind of hard to find. But I definitely want to check it out sometime, and I definitely want to watch it in the nearby future, because a lot of people say nothing but good things about this Sentai, so I don't really have much of an emotional attachment with these characters showing up in this crossover, but I did like the vibes I got from them and their chemistry that they had with the King-Ohger characters throughout this episode. So, last week we had Debug, or Dead Drug, whatever you want to call him, Galactic King Bug, throw our King-Ohgers into a brand new dimension, that being modern day Tokyo. And it was really nice to see the characters in like an actual sort of like outdoor setting, because, you know, with King-Ohger they're always in front of those CGI sets, so it looks weird on some angles, and sometimes the CGI doesn't always look right, but it was cool to see him in actual sort of outdoor setting with some natural lighting and some shadows and stuff like that, because like I said, usually the CGI for the sort of sets they use for King-Ohger isn't always the best. So in this episode we're sort of introduced to most of the Kyoryugers, all of them except for, well, the Pink Ranger shows up at the end, but the Gold Ranger isn't there, and the original Red Ranger isn't there, so Daigo was in there. I don't know why they couldn't get Daigo's actor back, I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure someone will leave a comment down below saying it would be other commitments or something like that. I don't know if he's retired, but it's weird that they didn't get him back, because the whole story explanation of why he's not there is because their planet was invaded by Debug, and then they went off to space to find the enemy, so then he took Gold and Red and they went there, and then while traveling out in space they found a ally from a distant alternate timeline, and that is Prince, and Prince is a potential character that has the potential to be unmatched, they say. So he needs to sort of train to make sure he can morph again, and the whole setup in this episode is Gira putting him through sort of like a combat by trial to test his might to see if he's worthy, and he ends up being worthy and he's able to morph into sort of King Kuru Red, which is an alright looking suit. I mean, it's a kit bash. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I feel like they should have just used the original suits from the Sentai instead of sort of adding it on, but I know they gotta sell stuff, they gotta sell the brand new power up, they gotta sell the brand new toy, and stuff like that. So the whole concept of this episode is our heroes being put into this new world. They meet up with the Kyoryugers, and they're sort of uncovering the mystery of this Sentai series being set in a different universe. And we get a really good twist at the end of this episode where we find out that Jeremy's father was possibly from this world, but a human from this dimension, because like the whole clue that he's working out with Ian in this episode, which I do like in this episode where Ian says oh my, and then Jeremy sort of mocks him, does that oh my in English, that got a laugh out of me because like it just came out of nowhere. Really fun joke with just like Jeremy's delivery of how he got it. And although I haven't seen much or any of Kyoryuger, I feel like that the cast chemistry with the King-Ohger Rangers blended really well, but they didn't get a lot of screen time. They sort of got like the equal amount of screen time with how much they appeared on screen. Prince probably getting the most here and there, I would say, because he's the brand new upcoming character. He's the Red Ranger that's going to mesh with our Red Ranger. But in this brand new universe, it looks like that our heroes, all of them except for Gira, are unable to transform into their King-Ohger forms. They're unable to morph, and one of the reasons why the Kyoryugers can't morph in this episode is because of the brand new D-Boss enemy that the Galactic insects brought have been stealing people's bravery. So with no bravery, they can't really morph right now. So they've got that excuse why you see him unmorphed, but I feel like that was a sort of a good excuse to sort of see him unmorphed in this episode, sort of see the characters in their civilian forms, and then next week's episode we're going to have all of them morph and fight together, which is going to be really cool to see, and I can't wait to see it because like the preview looked pretty good because you get to see the King-Ohgers in some modern day fits and some modern day clothes, and I can't wait to see how that episode's going to go down in it as well. So, the brand new D-Boss enemy, the main one they fight, the monster of the week they fight in this episode, looked pretty cool. He's a mishmash of like all the other Kyoryuger villains or the monsters, the generals, and it's got all their faces on there, and I feel like the voice actor is doing a different impression of each one of those characters because he's sort of like this emotion guy, so he's doing all these different impressions and stuff like that. But like I said, it was cool to see the King-Ohgers wandering about in this world, and I kind of wish we got to see more of it. I feel like the only one we got to see sort of exploring this world a lot was Dubowski, where he got to pick some fruit and he got to eat it, but then he's interrupted by fighting the bad guy, and I really like that moment, and I'm really hoping we'll get more of that in next week's episode, because you had Himino, Rita, and Jeremy walking through the forest, and then you had Yanma and Gira sort of in the city of Japan, but then you don't see them exploring the city that much, or you don't sort of see them adjusting to sort of modern day Tokyo. You have them sort of figuring out what the heck is going on, and then you get the lore dump, which I'm hoping we get that next week maybe. I think I'm hoping too much, but it was really cool to see like our heroes in this modern day setting. But overall, I thought this was a pretty fun episode. I feel like this was a pretty fun crossover, and I'm glad it's going to continue on into next week's episode. So I do wonder how this conclusion is going to end and how our heroes are going to get back home, because although this is a crossover between the two different series and celebrating 10 years of Kyoryuger, they're still sowing the seeds for stuff like Jeremy in the background, where we find out that his father was a human, which was something that we were teased way back in Jeremy's introduction, but to find out that Jeremy's father was a human from another universe that crossed over into this one raises a lot of more questions to find out how the heck he actually crossed over into this universe, and is he still out there? That's one of the big speculations. Is Jeremy's father out there? But anyway, guys, that was my review, my rumbling of King-Ohger episode 32. Like I said, this was a fun episode and a fun little crossover, and I'm glad we got something like this in King-Ohger. Like, this was something that came out of nowhere when it was leaked, and I was wondering how the heck they'd handle it, how the heck this crossover would even happen. And now that we're getting it, this two-parter is a lot of fun, and it still ties into the main story with everything going on in King-Ohger moving forward, so it's not like a fun little filler episode. This is sort of a distraction from their main universe, but it's still having stuff that ties into the main plot with the main enemies, if that makes any sense. But anyway, guys, I think I'm going to bring this review to an end, this recap to an end. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, take care, bye.